Hello, I'm Johan
I'm Ashley.
and welcome. Today we're gonna run through a little spreadsheet I've made as to why I believe Optimus should have the ability to drive, which is quite a bit of contention on Twitter apparently. So I'm gonna share my screen here,
Yeah,
and
go for it.
okay, so here we go. So as you can see here, based on 2022, there's an estimated 1.4 billion cars in the global fleet. At the,
Yeah,
at 2021's production, there was 79 million produced in 2021, which means at that rate it would take 18.2 years just to cycle the fleet if everybody did replace it in that 18.2 years. Obviously, there's some countries where they do take a lot longer, such as Cuba.
yeah.
So but on average, we'll stick with this figure. Okay, so the way I work it out is that in 2030, Tesla aims to produce 20 million vehicles. And that 20 million would be roughly 25% of the yearly market. So
Yeah,
this is just me setting a baseline if Tesla reaches it. So we can count out that 20 million vehicles from the global fleet as not needing to have an Optimus in it in order to drive it. Because this is a point that everyone makes on Twitter, is that Optimus doesn't need to drive because Tesla cars can drive themselves.
it's a
We,
very good point. Yes, full self-driving. What do you need a bot for?
exactly. But if you only build 20 million cars a year, and I mean, it's highly doubtful that a lot of other manufacturers will be at full self-driving at this point.
Okay.
So let me unhide this. So I've said that by 2030, maybe 10% of other manufacturers has the capability of full self-driving cars. So,
I think that is very ambitious, but okay.
okay.
Let's carry on with that for now.
And as you can see, I slowly and surely increase it year by year by 10% year on year. Year on year, 10%. The other manufacturers are getting to full self-driving. And that's how I got to 2052, where the combined fleet is at 79 million a year.
Okay.
Okay. So there's probably some errors in my math, but yeah, we can modify this as we go. Then we get to the total of 79 million.
You're talking about the 25-year time horizon. I'll forgive you if you're off by a little bit.
Exactly, it is a 25. Well, no, this is more than 25 because this only takes in effect from 2030 onwards. That's 7 years from now. So
That's true. So it's less than 25 years, really.
it's more than 25 years. That would be
Yeah.
29 years.
Yes.
Okay. Next, if we start including Optimus, so
Hmm.
if we have in 2030 that total combined of vehicles able to do full self-driving, like level 5, you don't need to do anything. That means you still have that many vehicles remaining in the fleet that needs or doesn't have the ability to drive. So 1.4 billion cars that still can't drive by themselves. And as you go through the years, it keeps getting lower and lower. I mean, by 2040, you're still sitting at 800 million that can't drive by themselves. But I doubt other manufacturers will get there by that time.
It's highly doubtful. And if there's maybe one or two of them that's going to get there, I'd be very, very surprised, to be honest with you. The ones
Yeah.
that are still actually in business.
So now we're starting to ramp up. I don't know why this goes down so quickly. Maybe I made a mistake here. So, next. This is my prediction of Optimus ramp. Elon said 3 to 5 years. So I've gone on 3 years, so saying in the 3 years from now, they will produce maybe 1,000 Optimus. 2026, maybe 10,000, 2027, 100,000, 2028, a million. That's 4 years to get to a million. They're not even going to take that long on their Texas and Berlin factories to build Model Ys, which is a hell of a lot more complicated than a test an Optimus.
That's it. Yeah, Berlin done well this month
So,
or last month, should I say?
I would say this is fairly how would you say it? Scaled down, shall we call it? But then I got the ramp going up by 50% year on year, and up to year. There we go. So year, I stopped going 50%. So now I go by 10% because we're talking about 1 billion Optimuses produced a year, which I think is possible. I
Oh, most
definitely,
definitely.
I think the TAM is unlimited on Optimus. That's my opinion, and I can fight for that for years and years and years.
Once they get it right, it's inevitable of what's going to happen. Let's be honest. Once you get to the
Yes,
point where get 1.5 million bots, you'd imagine that 1.5 million, that is going to be not commercial use. That is going to be more factories, stuff like that, that will
yes,
buy the first bunch. So let's say
yes,
by 2029, 2030, it then becomes a public thing and they'll start releasing it to me and you, for instance.
yes, exactly. Well, I'm hoping I can get mine before that, but
As long as you've got a company, there's no reason you can't buy one.
yeah, exactly. That is my predicted Optimus ramp, 50% all the way up to about 1 billion a year, and then we start slowing down because of whatever reason, who knows. Which means the TAM for Optimus only for this one specific use case as a chauffeur would be basically at its max capacity up until what's this 2042, which is 20 years from now. So up until 2042, where Tesla's producing 291 million a year, all those robots could be bought just for full self-driving chauffeurs. That's a huge market. After that, it starts tapering down. I'm not sure if there's an area. I think there's an area.
I think you've made an error, but we've got until 2042, so
we'll
that'll do
double
us all
check.
right.
We'll double check the map on another episode.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. I estimate Tesla will produce a Optimus for 10,000 in the beginning. When I say
That's ambitious.
no, this is in the beginning, as in 2030. The first 1,000 is probably going to cost more than 1 million each. But by the time you get to 2 million produced, I cannot see how it will be costing more than 10,000 each. Obviously, not inflation adjusted.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Well, see, I'd go more 15 potentially, because if they started at 25, so they'll probably started at 35, knowing Elon.
Well,
Um,
this is what I'm saying is right now, if I buy an Optimus right now for 50,000 and use it in my line of work, that robot can pay for itself in a year. And let's say it lasts 10 years, that is 9 years of profit for me, pure profit, which means out a cost of 50,000 makes me 450,000 over 10 years. That's one hell of a return. That is for
yes, it
me
is.
using it in my use case. If Elon managed to, or Tesla managed to make it for 10,000 and sell it for 50,000, which I will be buying them at 50,000, that is, I cannot see how that is not reasonable. That
I,
means
yeah, I would pay 50,000 for one of those bots, definitely, especially if they first come out.
exactly. So that means they're making 40,000 profit each. Remember, this is now after they've scaled to 2.2 million units a year. So you would have the bonuses of cost of manufacturing.
Yeah.
Good scale. Yes, that's it. Which means you're running 80% profit margin. And let's say over time they start reducing the cost. I mean, I'm reducing it by 1% a year. 1% a year up until this point, 2056. And you keep the sale price the same because they're going to reduce the cost as time goes on. Obviously, these numbers all will go up based on inflation, but I can't predict what inflation is going to be. But you end up with
No.
85% profit margin. That's insane.
No, but I highly doubt they're going to keep selling the bot for a 50 on a 50k mark. Most definitely, especially if the price keeps coming down. There's no way in hell he's going to keep selling them for 50 grand each.
Well, you reckon it's going to go down?
I think so, definitely. I mean, his view is he wants to sell it for 25 grand. That's what he said last year in AI Day. Now we all
Yeah.
know that's not going to happen. Elon
Exactly.
says I want to sell it for X, it's normally about £10,000 more.
Exactly. But I can quickly do that for you. Copy this over to here and just change the percentage to 98%. Let's say we reduce it by 2% per year, which we get to 29,000 by 2056. Okay, that's still talking 74% margin. That's still crazy.
That's a great margin. If you can make that on flipping anything you sell, you're making money, definitely.
Um, yeah, that makes it so great for me to be invested in Tesla. But this is the point I'm trying to make. Just for this one use case, and the amount of use cases for Optimus is basically everything humans can do. Not right out of the bat, but by the time they get to about this point, where they produce more than 100 million a year, Optimus will be producing Optimus. So there's no reason why this can't scale near infinitely. And once you start going space and whatnot, it just goes crazy. But yeah, here's your yearly profit for
Here we go.
Optimus as a chauffeur. By 2030, you're looking at $90 billion in profit. Not revenue, profit.
I get that, but I kind of agree with the other guys that's saying if you think about it, why would you have a bot driving a car that's got self-driving capabilities?
But this is exactly the point of this thing, is this is for the cars that don't have it yet. Because there's loads of cars being produced now that will last 10, 20 years that does not have full self-driving capabilities. And let's say this goes even lower. I mean, we could make this even lower. But let's say Elon starts at 25K. If you have a $100,000 car because you bought this whatever, and it can't drive itself, but you can't afford to pay for FSD, which Elon reckons could end up at 100,000 per FSD price, then, and you can buy a robot that does it for you, this I think is going to cap what FSD can be sold for if Optimus can drive. I see no reason why it can't drive. It's got more eyes than you and me.
No, I get that, but again, when you get to that point, within the next year or so, a couple of years, let's put it that way, rather, it's going to get to the point where every single Tesla sold has got all the capabilities. They've not activated it because you've not paid for it, but
Yes,
all the
but
tech's in the car.
that brings me back to Tesla only intends on selling 20 million vehicles a year. Tesla alone cannot transition the entire global fleet. That is one hell of a figure. Hang on, no, that is million, that's billion. Yeah, this is just one potential use case. I'm not saying every Optimus produced is going to be used for this, but you could definitely imagine that every Optimus being sold or being produced will be sold because there's so many use cases. What I'm trying to say is that for Optimus, just as a chauffeur, it can fully sell out production up until 2030, 2042. Now
Yeah,
that is mind-boggling.
it's
Just
crazy
on
numbers when you think about it.
just
It's
on
honestly
one use case, and there's no way it's going to sell out all its use cases.
no. I
And
mean,
then
what we think that bot's going to be able to do is probably the tip of the iceberg of what they're actually planning for it to do.
yes, exactly. So on this one use case alone, which we can both agree that it won't be used purely for that, because there will be other cars that has FSD capability earlier or whatever. This is just a rough prediction of when others will have FSD. I reckon government guidelines would come in earlier and kick this up a bit.
See, I didn't. Yeah,
Speed this up.
only FSD there's going to be is the Tesla one because
Yes.
unfortunately they don't have enough research to do their own FSD. They're
No,
going to have to just
which means
buy the rights.
they're gonna have to license it from Tesla, but
Of
governments
course, yes.
are gonna step in and say you have to have this in your car because
Oh, most definitely.
Germany's already looked into it.
Once it's safer for a car to drive itself,
Exactly.
why would you want to drive the car?
Exactly.
Seriously. I mean, on an hour and a half journey for me to get to site, whatever the case may be, I literally lose all that time every single day when I
Exactly.
drive back and
Exactly.
forth. That's three
Yesterday,
hours that I could have done something productive in. So trust me when I say FSD comes about, I'll be having it.
oh, absolutely. Yesterday I spent 4 hours driving. Yeah, I could definitely use FSD.
No, my
But yeah,
missus wants FSD because she can't drive. Wonder how
so
that's going to work. Do you reckon if you can't drive a car but the car's got FSD, would you still need a license?
no, you won't need a license. Once you get to level 5, the licensing will become pointless. Which is funny because my wife just renewed her license and it expires in 2033. Which by that
Ooh.
time she will be in a Tesla, no question about it. But yeah, then I just quickly continue the numbers. Just based on Optimus's potential ramp at 50% a year, and bear in mind I've slowed it down the first couple of years. This is what you're looking at for Optimus to make. By 2037, Optimus alone will be a $1 trillion component of Tesla. Just Optimus.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that is just absolutely ridiculous. Just
Providing they can get it right. That's the one thing. I just AI Day this year just needs to be
AI,
something else, to be
AI
honest with you.
this year is going to be absolutely amazing. I can't wait for it. But
Oh,
yeah,
it is going to be absolutely awesome.
if they made the amount of progress that they made for AI Day 2 since AI Day 1, the amount of progress is going to be done from 2 to 3 is going to be absolutely mind blowing. I mean, my mind was blown on AI Day 2 that they made that much progress in 6 months. I know it's been a
Oh
year
yeah.
between the 2 days, but you think about the development that they first had to do before they could start building, before they could start testing. We're talking months. Most companies take, I mean, I take it you've seen the Boston Dynamics video where the
I
guy
have, yes.
where he jumps on scaffolding. Have you seen the blooper reel of that?
No, I can't say that I have, no.
How many times a scripted thing gets it wrong? It's yeah, they script it and it still fumbles and everything. There's one point where in the blooper reel he does manage to maintain his balance, so he does have some autonomy in him that he can correct for errors, but it's still like he would throw the plank up there and then he'd try and run over it and he'd miss because he's not the plank isn't the way it's scripted to be.
Yes, which is the problem with the script, the same with radar and all that stuff.
Exactly.
You've got to have all that information loaded, and then the wind changes from north to south, and there's a paper in its way, and it doesn't know what to do with
Yes.
itself.
Yes, exactly. So this is my little spreadsheet. I need to go see what the heck's going on here because that jump there is way too big. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
something definitely went wrong there.
yeah. Um, and then, but yeah, just on Optimus's total production of what I believe is possible, you are looking at. Jeez, there's just so many digits. I wish this thing could do it in trillions and stuff. I don't know if it can, but yeah, it is insane. The potential of Optimus is insane, and I even at what's that 2 billion produced, 2.8 billion produced a year. I can't see how they can't sell everything out. If you think about the whole planet has 8 billion people, there's absolutely no reason why there can't be an Optimus for each person and then some.
I want two, please.
I want one every year they produce one and have a
No,
fleet.
I want. You know, I want two to start off with. One for me and one for my house.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you think? Obviously, you disagree with the when the others are going to get in, which this is just pure speculation. This is a absolutely huge timeline, by the way. But
No, for sure.
yeah. So this part, I agree. This could, and I reckon, will happen earlier. But that only affects the if is the chauffeur part of Optimus. But the whole point of this is to show that just for this one potential use case, which is why I think Optimus should be able to drive, Tesla could sell every Optimus they make up until I need to put this date earlier. Let's say 2040, just for one use case. That is $4 trillion of income just if they add FSD to Optimus, and that's per
I,
year.
I see what you're saying. I'm just very doubtful that they will actually do that, to be honest with you. It's not like it's a car driving itself. You're talking about third person, so to
Yes,
speak.
which is why the caveat comes in of it needs to drive slower.
Yep.
Yeah, it needs to be basically doing truck speeds, which is usually what 10, 20 miles per hour slower than the road speed.
Yeah, correct.
And it needs to have a like a R, like you got the learner badge on a car, you need to have an R badge or something saying this is a robot driving. But by the time we get to 2030, FSD itself would be so good that it would, or even as Optimus doing it, it would be better and quicker to react than humans.
To an
Like,
extent.
yes,
So I could tell you now, if I had to sit in the car with the robot driving and he's driving slowly, I'm going to get fairly agitated and I'll take over.
yeah. Top shit. Here we go. Here we go.
Ooh, you've just thrown everything out. What are you doing?
I stopped the spreadsheet. We can come back to that spreadsheet on another episode. That's fine.
No, so I don't mind it. I'm all good. It's the moment you close that everything changed on my screen. I was like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah, so that's where we're at. So that's
No, it's interesting. And listen, it will be absolutely brilliant if they can pull this off and he can drive people around. It'd be absolutely
yes,
amazing. I mean, the users, old people, for instance, that can't really drive themselves
exactly,
anymore, all that sort
exactly.
of thing.
It
My
eliminates.
missus, who's scared of driving, there's a lot of people out there who doesn't want to
Yes,
drive because they are just
I
fearful
mean,
of roads, the cars. It would be great.
I drive all the time, and I absolutely despise driving into London. Absolutely despise it because it's just such a chaotic place. And tiny little European roads inside the major city like that. It's madness. It's like I absolutely despise it. Um, but for here in the UK, people 17 over need to start doing medical tests in order to renew their license. What if they don't have to do that anymore because they can have a robot chauffeur them in their existing car? If you could buy, let's say the price does come down to 25k, if you could go buy that instead of having to replace your car, great. But at the same time, by that time, the $25,000 Tesla will be out. So you got a choice. You could buy the robot and keep your existing car if you have a car that's worth more than that, or you could replace it with the cheap Tesla. So those are your options basically.
I just think it's going to be hard for them to do because, look, if you've got a car, the car knows the car size.
Yes.
It knows we should go take it around the corner. I need to be leaving this much space, not to clip it, whatever the case may be. You stick a robot in a car.
There's
Now,
no reason
I've
why
got
that.
a
Go
I've got a
ahead.
Nissan Micra, and you've got a Ford Ranger. That robot needs to know the difference of how to
Okay.
take that corner, whereas the car will know that because it's built into that car. It's got the capabilities of knowing it. The robot won't.
Okay, but you could have in the robot's program that before it gets into a vehicle, it can measure the vehicle because it's got cameras. It can measure the distance after each corner to corner. It can measure the wheelbase, and from that, it'd be able to drive much better than somebody new driving in that vehicle because it will
100%,
know
but
what its capabilities are just by
that
looking
still
at it.
means that you can't use the FSD software using the car for the bot because it would
I
have
don't
to be different.
I don't see why it couldn't be adapted into something like that. It
Potentially,
would be a
potentially, but
reduced
that's going to make
capability. It would definitely.
100%, yeah, but that is going to make your 50 grand Optimus 75 grand easily.
Fair enough. If for some people, it would be worth it. Now imagine, as we said with the older generation, imagine you're 70 plus, and you no longer need to have your license, but you have a choice between buying a full self-driving car or you get the robot. Let's say they both are still 25k. Okay, now instead of having just a car that drives itself, you can have the robot that drives you, gets out, takes your groceries, carry it into the house, prepares it, pack it away. You don't have to do any heavy lifting as an old person because the same robot will have more than one use. That's why you would opt for the robot rather than buying just a car, even if it means you drive 20 miles per hour slower than the road speed limit.
Well, if you're an old person, I can't see how that's going to matter to you. If you are still young and in a hurry to get to where you need to go to, it's going to be a
Exactly.
different story.
Yeah, if you're in a hurry, you will buy the Tesla because, well, first of all, if you drive an ice car, you're not gonna have the performance. If you're in a hurry, you'd have a Tesla because you have the performance. But for the older generation, this robot could become such an invaluable tool.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, you look at loss of eyesight, loss of everything else, your reaction
Yeah.
time gets slower. It's a no-brainer, 100%. But to get there, I think it's going to take a fair few years. And they've got to
Well, that's why
get the
this.
FSD capability bang on before I reckon they'll start thinking about
Oh yeah,
introducing that to the
abs-
bot.
absolutely. Yeah, no, FSD needs to be level 5 before they could start adapting it for bot. But that's why I've got it starting from 2030, which is seven
Yes.
years from now.
I still think is
You don't think FSD will be done by then?
no, to be honest with you.
I think it will.
I hope it will. I 100% hope it will. But
I.
it's adoption, and it's how
Oh no.
many people have it and how many people already have it in their cars. That's what's going to make it capable of being to be able to launch in 2030 for everybody to have FSD. But at this moment in time, every person who buys a Tesla doesn't get it with full self-driving capability or with FSD capabilities
Yeah,
because
10%.
exactly. So 10% of its fleet is at this moment in time doing the research needed.
No, no, they all do the research needed. All the cars do the research, even if you not haven't paid for it, because the car.
How? Because the car's
Because
not driving itself.
no, no, the car is simulating what you are doing, and then if you make a different choice to what it does, then it will send that over, saying why have we made different decisions. It's been doing that since the beginning of Hardware 2, I think, Hardware 3.
Okay.
So every car runs it in the background. That's why they ship FSD with every car, because they can gather that data. It's just some people have beta, and therefore you can use it.
Yeah, I'd love that in mind, to be honest with you.
Uh, I will, yeah, I would. I want beta so badly, but beta's not available in the UK yet, so not much we can
No,
do about
well,
that.
luckily I've still got a year left on my lease. Hopefully by then it'll be available in the UK, so I can buy my Tesla with FSD.
Mm, I'm just waiting for the Cybertruck. I can't wait. Anyway, shall we wrap this one up?
Yeah, we can wrap this one up.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
All right. All right. Let's stop recording there. Oh, wait. Shall we say bye bye?
That's probably a good idea, unless you want to be rude.
Yeah. No, I'm always rude. You know that.
We're South African, unfortunately. We're born that way.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
Have a good day.